The following is a story from a session of Dark Heresy I played a few months ago. It involved a psyker named Marcus and a chutzpah score of over 9,000. Marcus was presented as a fairly straightforward sanctioned psyker who had some special bonuses to diplomacy, explosives, and shooting. These bonuses were justified by saying he was naturally glib and had served with the Imperial Guard. He rarely used his psyker powers. During the entire campaign, he only manifested an offensive ability once, and it was to avoid what would otherwise have been certain death, personified as an orc knob with a very big axe. Marcus was supposedly specialized into divination, but was quick to tell everyone that predicting the future was an imprecise art on the best of days. He occasionally offered up predictions to the party, which tended to be accurate. Mundane things were easier for him to predict. He also frequently complained of interfering energy or other phenomena blocking his gift. Most of the other PCs assumed the site was an unsubtle way for me to provide plot armor/railroading, because Dark Heresy is a high-casualty game, and I don't like players rolling up new characters every other session. Decreases player attachment and involvement on a meta level. This dynamic kept going until the party encountered a cult of Nurgle, disguised as a family restaurant, gross, which magicked a great unclean one into existence, grosser. I'd given the party a bit of NPC Space Marine support for the encounter, so they were equipped to deal with it. What might have been an epic battle was interrupted by Marcus screaming very loudly, soiling himself, and running at full speed in the opposite direction the instant the demon materialized. The fight proceeded without him, and after a narrow victory and heroic sacrifice by the Space Marines, the party began digging around for Marcus. They eventually found him cowering under some rubble in a near catatonic state. After brief deliberation, it was decided in short order to break into his mind to check for potential demonic corruption with the other PC psyker. At this point, I just handed the party this. Marcus was a psyker. He just wasn't a very good one. Shortly after his graduation from the Scholastica Psychana, but before his actual field deployment, Marcus had gotten drunk and attempted to scry the warp in an intoxicated attempt to impress a co-ed. Marcus did scry the warp, but instead of seeing a void of knowledge and mystery, he caught a fleeting glimpse of the outermost layers of Nurgle's garden. Fleeting though this impression was, it was enough to scar Marcus for life. He became a germaphobe, convinced that even the slightest specks of dirt could attract Nurgle's attention. He also developed an obsessive fear of using his powers. This was understandably problematic for a person whose job revolved around doing space magic. Marcus was resourceful. He requested deployment with a remote, prestigeless Imperial Guard regiment. He kept his head down and ingratiated himself with both his superiors and peers. He found that making safe predictions any reasonable person could make. It will rain next week. The plasma gunner will die tomorrow. Was a good way to gain credit and convince people he was doing his job. Whenever he was asked to make a difficult prediction or aired, he would make up an excuse about warp interference, or string together other big words that sounded good. He kept a large supply of custom pyrotechnics, purchased from ratlings, which he used to simulate offensive powers in a pinch. Despite the obvious disadvantage of being an employed psyker who never used psyker powers, Marcus found himself rapidly rising through the ranks of the Guard. His regiment had grown to like and respect him for his reputation for never causing warp phenomena, and his commissar handler approved of his hygiene eloquence, and general cautious approach to all things warp. Soon, Marcus found himself enjoying a comfortable existence, creating asinine predictions with hot meals and showers at Battalion HQ. Things could not have been going better until Marcus's handler told him he was personally recommending him for Primaris Psyker training. Marcus may have been able to fool an isolated guard unit about the specifics of Psyker powers, but he held no illusions about being able to deceive the best and the brightest at the Scholastica. Even more frightening was the prospect of having one of his many lies uncovered. In Marcus's experience, people caught lying to their commanders did not live long. In desperation, Marcus used every connection at his disposal, and his personal relationship with his commissar, to secure a transfer to the Ordo Xenos division of the Inquisition. While perhaps not an ideal assignment, Marcus would be able to dodge demons, for the most part, and hopefully not be exposed as a fraud. It wasn't a great long-term option, but it was better than the impending exposal he faced otherwise. All the players had a laugh about this once they read it. In order to reflect on Marcus's unique personality traits, I had a rule which required Marcus to save against fear whenever he confronted demons or warpy stuff. The mere appearance of a greater demon caused significant penalties on this roll, and anything related to Nurgle, the cause of Marcus's trauma, incurred further penalties. Marcus just didn't have the nerves to fight a great unclean one. And a low roll, coupled with significant penalties, resulted in a final total well below the critical failure threshold, which is why Marcus lost control of his bowels. And thus poop jokes were made for the next 2 weeks. It was shitty, but Marcus the neurotic psychic bullshitter will always have a special place in my heart.